The purpose of this video is to walk you through how to use Conferences, which is the Schoology app for virtual learning. It'll also allow you to record any of your live sessions so that students who are not present can go back and watch them, as well as students who may have been attending the live conference but need to revisit the materials. So first and foremost, remember that the conference feature is not compatible with the Schoology app. So you will need to log into Schoology.com through a web browser. You do want to avoid Internet Explorer, but Safari, Chrome, Firefox, any of your other browsers work just fine. Now, students can still access conferences through an iPad or a mobile device. They're just not going to click on the app for Schoology. They're just going to visit Schoology.com through their web browser. And you, the teacher, are going to need to do that too. Conferences will not even be visible as an option if you go in through the app. So this is my instructor homepage. And even if you have not yet had the opportunity to go in and download Conferences, the next time you visit your Schoology page, you will see it's there waiting for you in the left-hand column under all the different features you have as an instructor for this course. It has also been already downloaded to all of your students. So we are ready to jump in and start Conferences. And this is how easy it is. So as an instructor, I'm going to click on Conferences, and it's going to take me to this page of the active conferences I have scheduled. I currently have none, so let's create one. We need to give it a date and a time. In doing this, it's also going to add this to our student calendar so they know that they have a conference and when it is. So even though I have a scheduled start time for this conference, if every student there is there on time and waiting, if I have not started it, they cannot enter. There is no entry waiting room like with Zoom or other types of virtual conferences, because no one's getting in unless they're a PowerSchool enrolled student in this course. Until I click Start Conference, there's nowhere for them to go. So let's do that. Let's jump into a conference. Now, you might decide to open up your conferences 15 minutes earlier than the scheduled time, just to make sure all the students are able to get in, address any problems with that. You might also maybe open up your virtual classroom 30 minutes early, so those who have specific questions have that opportunity to come in before the whole class and get some small group help. So this is the first page you're going to see. Each and every time you log into your conference, your students will see this too. We're going to enable our microphone as a presenter, allow Schoology to access it. Hello, hello. Okay, my microphone is working well.
You are currently the only person in this conference.
Okay, so we do have the option to record this conference, and for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to do that. So I strongly suggest, just to make sure there's no compliance issues, that you announce to your class, I am now starting the recording for this class. And a lot of the coworkers I have at the high school will give like a 5-minute window. So, at 10:05, we're going to start the recording. Okay, we are starting now, so that they have a chance to talk to each other. Students have a chance to arrive a little bit late. But now we want to officially begin this session. And I'm going to give it permission to start recording. Now, as my presenter, I quickly want to visit the bottom here. Here's how I can mute myself. I can also click any of my users that will be across here.
You are now muted.
And quickly mute them, and they will have to unmute themselves.
You are now unmuted.
I, of course, am going to want to turn on my camera and not have my students in their live session talking to my blank screen. And so let's take a walk around this page and see what our options are. So starting in the left-hand corner, we have the chat window. And we are familiar with that from using other types of virtual learning spaces. You will see these two messages defaulted to you, the instructor, every time you open. Take note, there are some tutorial videos here from Big Blue Button. Big Blue Button is the actual virtual learning environment that Conferences uses to allow the recording of it. So if you visit this hyperlink, they will actually give you lots of brief, quick, targeted tutorials on some of the different skills that you may need to become more proficient in learning this. So we can leave my chat window open. We're going to close it for right now. Under that, we have shared notes. This is information that everyone will see. So you can open it and type in it live as you're working through your live tutorial. Think about it like if I was lecturing my class and I had like certain keywords I wanted to write on the board. This is kind of like that virtual board to do it. One of many options. I think the strongest use with this space is before my students come in, I'm gonna make an outline of the topics we're covering today or what my big ideas are and cut and paste it from a Word document in here and not actively work with it during class. This is gonna be a little distracting, but maybe just an outline of what my lecture is going to be about, if not my actual lecture notes. So that's under shared notes. You will have the ability to lock it, so that is only what you add to it. But you also have the option, if there's purpose, to make this collaborative and your students can ask questions or add information here. So there might be some purpose for why you want to do that. And again, I'm the only one in this classroom, but my students, as they come in, their names will start filling in here under mine. So if you look next to users, there's this little gear button, and we have some options for user settings. And there's some important ones here, so let's visit. First of all, as a user, each of your students will have this option to set their status. So they can raise a hand. They can give a thumbs up or thumb down. They can make note to you that they've had to step away. Or they have various little emoticons that they can post. Now do notice that you saw the only thing that changed was this little icon here. Up in the corner, there was this alert, but that's to me as the user. So the student will see that alert of what they've changed their status to. You as the instructor will only see that change in their emoticon. So it is, for me, a little hard to catch that. But if you wanted to, throughout the class, visit that to see, where your pauses are, instruction, are there any hands raised? Okay, let's go through and address these questions. We, of course, can do that in the chat window, or we can do it here, the idea of students raising their hand. It's also one of several ways that you can do a quick formative assessment, thumbs up or thumbs down. I'll show you some other ways to do that I think are more effective. All right, so we were looking at our gears here, and the reason I jumped down to that is because if you had your class do thumbs up or thumbs down, right here, with one quick click, you could clear everyone so that they could again do that when you asked them to, or they could then again raise their hand if they had another question as you moved on. You can choose to mute all your users. Not sure why you would choose that. You probably want this one, mute everyone except yourself. And then, of course, you can click on each individual name and mute them if needed. Take a look at this feature. So when I did my first Schoology conference, I knew I was recording it, and I was kind of excited, and I didn't think to take attendance. And I'm like, that's okay. I'm going to record it. I'm going to watch back. I'll note who's there. It doesn't show you that users column in the recording. So one of the options you can do is at any point during your recording, you can come over here again to users gear and click save usernames. And if you look here at the bottom, it'll automatically start saving this text window. That's just a rundown of all names of who was present. So later, when you are doing your virtual lesson tracker and you need to note who is logged in, you'll have that document to go back to. Now, another fun way you could choose to do it is some type of icebreaker or shout out where everyone has to post something or respond to a prompt in the chat window. That chat window does show up in its entirety in your recording. So those are just two ways you can visit on the other side of your lesson just to make sure you know everyone that tuned in, because it can be a lot to keep up with if you're actively presenting to try and watch who's here, who am I missing, and that's a way to revisit it later that's reasonable. All right, so over here in our user settings, we also have this option here, lock viewers, that I suggest you visit. These are the settings for this specific conference. So you will need to do this for each conference, but it's quick. Do you want them to be able to share their webcam? Do you want them to be able to share their microphone? Do you want them to be able to chat public? Do you want them to be able to chat privately with each other? No, thank you. I want their attention. Do you want them to be able to log into those notes and edit them? I do not. And then do you want them to see who else is present in class? Sure. So whichever settings you decide on, we're going to apply it. And again, that is for this conference session. It will not default to this for my next class. I'm gonna have to do it all over again, but it's something quick, but what you wanna do before the students start arriving. So that was under lock viewers. This is also where we will visit to do breakout rooms, which we'll come back to in a minute. And then you do have the option of turning on closed captions for your recording. I have not played with that one too much, but that might be an important accessibility piece, something to look into if it fits the needs of your students. So those are all the different options under user settings. Beneath this, you're going to have a list of your users, how many of your students have logged in, and you'll be able to click on them to do different things to these members. So because I'm not just a user, I'm actually the moderator, it's not going to show you all the options in this tutorial because I don't have students in here right now. So you're just going to click on any of your users' names, and me as the moderator, I can mute them. I can choose to make the presenter. Again, it's not going to give me the option because I already am the presenter. But if I had different students and I want one of them to share their screen, I would click make the presenter. And then at any point, I take that back away from them. So students can individually share their screens. You can choose to remove a user if there should be purpose for that. And then you have the option to make any user a moderator. That sounds scary, right? But here's the reason you may choose to do this. If you are a moderator in this chat, then you can open your webcam for all the users to see. So any student that chooses to turn on their webcam, you will see them. All your students will see you. They will not see each other. It's one of the security features in Schoology. There's two ways to work around it that I'll tell you, and here's one. If you just click on your users and make a moderator, make a moderator, make a moderator, then all of their webcams will pop up if they've chosen to share them, and they'll be able to see each other. For me, that's pretty important to my virtual classroom environment, so I'm comfortable doing that. You know, if you're questionable in doing that, honestly, it doesn't give them any great power, and you can take it away with a click if you need to. But if you want them to see each other, that's one way you can do it quickly. So let's jump into our different presentation options here. This is a default screen that unless you do something to change it, everyone's going to be welcome to the big blue button. But it's pretty easy to change. So this is also our whiteboard, and this is preloaded into Schoology conferences. You don't need to do anything to access this feature. So if you look at the bottom, slide 1 will always be this screen as a default. But we can advance through however many slides we need, and we have all this whiteboard space to work with. We also have various whiteboard tools. So our text option here will let us draw a square and type in it. And then the other features are going to be ones that you're used to just from whatever else you were using. So my math people, you can draw lines and shapes. And of course, there's a pencil. And you can change the width of that writing implement. You can change the color of that writing implement. You can undo anything that did not work out. You can throw away this whole slide, or I can advance to the next slide. And this last feature is the one I want you to think about. How can you use this? Because it's another way to engage students and promote collaboration. The default of your whiteboard is a single user and you are that user. But with one click right here, it is now a multi-user screen. See how it went from one screen to more than one? And see now how my pencil has my name? Because any of your users now can put their pencil there and write on this board. So again, it's not a feature that's automatically there. You have to turn it on. And with one more click, I can turn it right back off. But maybe you want your students to come up here and solve something. Or maybe you have a slide that you want them to go in and manipulate and write on and answer in some way. So that's an interesting feature that hopefully you can find some use for. So that is your whiteboard. You can choose to make it full screen. You can choose to zoom in or zoom out. So a lot of flexibility with this as a tool, especially if you're using a mobile device and a stylus. You'll have a lot more ability to effectively write on that whiteboard if that is something you're used to using in your instructional method. So our other tools are going to be down here in this little plus button, which is our action button. So we can start a poll. How great is this? Watch how quick this is, right? All right, I've just given my lesson. I've given out maybe 20% of my information. I want to make sure my kids are awake, they're following, they're understanding. So let's start a quick poll. What kind of poll do you want? It's already preset in here. Yes versus no, true versus false, A, B, C, D. Bam, my poll's up. Students are ready to take it. Now, you can't do anything with these settings. So I can't have A is for this answer, B is for this answer, but I could on a slide. So on my presentation, I could have a point in my PowerPoint where it comes up with a question and A, B, C, D. And so I'm gonna have my students answer real quick. So they will see this part of what percentage of students answered, unless you hide it. But what you will see is here under user responses, you will see each individual student's name and what they answered. So if I see that 20% of my students were wrong, I can look real quick and see, okay, who got it wrong? But they can't see that. So you're not going to have, they're waiting to see what each other wrote because I'm going to wait until they're done. Bam, let me publish my, what that polling was, but I can see the students that I need to revisit and help a little bit more. Or was it only just a few of them? Or was, whoa, like we didn't get that. Let's back up and try this again. So again, we did this right here with a plus sign. Throw up a quick poll, and you have true, false, yes, no. So you were able to do thumbs up and thumbs down over here as a quick formative assessment. And then here's another maybe more pointed way. You can also do a quick check for understanding. So again, if I'm going to sit here and talk for 20 minutes, what am I going to do to engage my class in that lesson? Because they may or may not want to speak up, but they'll answer that poll. They'll give me a thumbs up or thumbs down, whether it's on the camera or over there, because that's something neat and new to do. It's just a way to build engagement in your presentation. So we can do a quick poll. We also can get rid of this whiteboard and let's put a presentation in here instead. Now, this is an example of how I want to set up for my class before my students arrive, because I do not want this lull in instruction while I'm over here uploading the documents for this class. So as soon as I open that conference window, when I'm given that 5 minutes of time for students to arrive late, I'm going to go ahead and make sure my bookmarks are set, make sure my documents are uploaded. So when I'm ready for it, it's fluid. Bam, there it is. All right, now you may have noticed, this is a PowerPoint. I've uploaded it in Google Slides over the years, but you may have noticed when I added it as a PDF. So your files do need to be Office files, and you will find that a PDF is a more compressed file, and it will let you quickly go through these presentations, even though they may be rich in information and in graphics. Whereas if you try to do that with a PowerPoint, there's possibility that it's going to lag and lull and just not be as fluid. So make sure you go in with your Google Slides or with your PowerPoints and convert them to a PDF first. I suggest you do that even in your actual Schoology class if you're posting this type of material, because they're easier to manipulate and the students can look at it inside that Schoology app without having to export anything. So again, this was just a PowerPoint. So my method of instruction might be to pull this PowerPoint up and just to talk it through with my students, adding extra information where I need to. If you look over to the right-hand side, my annotation tools are still here for my whiteboard. So I can still choose to mark up whatever presentation I have. That's pretty big, so let's make that a more reasonable tool that I can, as I'm talking, highlight, write, whatever purpose it might be, directly on that presentation. And again, I can share my screen so that my students could come in and mark on that presentation in some way if I had some type of formative assessments built into it, maybe. Okay, so that was add a presentation. And then the third option we have here for our different actions, poll, presentation, or video. So this, again, you want to be prepared before class, have that browser open at the top. So when it's time to drop in a video, I can copy that URL real quick and then come back here and share it with the class. It pops up. There we go.
Hey there, students.
Okay, so YouTube works pretty fluidly with this, and it doesn't take the students out to YouTube to do it, but embeds it right here so they don't leave the Schoology page. There are different types of videos that work also, and it'll tell you the different types that are available, but they're a little odd, like Vimeo or I can't even remember some of them, whereas YouTube is kind of universal. So it's that quick to, here's a presentation, here's a video, let's go back to the whiteboard, let's throw up a poll. You really can bounce all around this page and just keep your students engaged with these different tools. So another option for student engagement is if we come back to this gear, and remember we had breakout rooms, and I said we come back to that, so let's do that. So right now, all of my students are gathered in this one room. I'm talking, they're listening, they might be adding stuff to the chat box, I might be pausing and letting them unmute themselves and contribute. But here's a meaningful way for these students to really collaborate. So if we come over here to create a breakout room, we have lots of options. We can decide how many rooms we want. We can decide how long we want that breakout room to last. And we can still end it early if we decide, because we can bounce around the different rooms. If we decide to end it early, we can. Right here is going to be a list of all of your students. So you're just going to click on them and drag them to whichever room you want to place them in. It's not going to do it because I'm the moderator, but that's how you would do it. You can choose to let the students go to their own room. So think about in a class, if you let them choose their own groups, and is that going to work for your purposes that day? Or if you want to be real quick with this, pop into a breakout room, randomly assign, it'll equally distribute them between however many rooms you have, and then it'll give them the option to go and join that room. So you will hit create, and then they'll be prompted with a join the room. And then they can go and they can collaborate with each other inside that room. There we go. And again, you as a teacher, you could have 4, 5, 10 different rooms going in, and you'll be able to pop into each one, see what the discussions are, and at whatever point you end those breakout rooms, it throws them all back into the main room. This is also the second way that they're able to see each other on webcam. So remember, before I said you can click on each individual name and make them a moderator. Or if you throw them in a breakout room, they can turn on their cams so when they collaborate with each other, they can physically see each other. And there's not a size limit to your breakout rooms. So a workaround is that you can go to a breakout room, make one breakout room, throw your entire class in it, and they now can turn their webcams on and see each other. So again, if that's something that you think is important to your class culture, that is a way that you can do that. All right, so what have we not worked through? So we talked about all the different action buttons, how to mute and unmute yourself, how to turn on and off your webcam. You have the ability to share your screen. So should you want to take them to a different website, take them somewhere on the internet with you, open a Word document, you can choose what part of your screen you want to share with them. So, whether it's an application you have open or any of the tabs, and again, you're going to want to be prepared and already have these tabs open across the top of your screen. And so this window here will then be whatever website I went through. So they'll still see me, I'm still instructed, but they're able to see my screen and where I've taken them on the web for whatever purpose that might be. And then up here, we have these 3 dots, which are a few more options you may want to visit. Here under settings, just thinking about what you want control of. The only one I will visit here and turn on is I want the doorbell to ring when my students are coming in late. Just so I know people are joining and leaving, just a personal preference. So, do visit there for some of the different settings. And there's also a quick help button should you need something. This is also where we're going to go to end our meeting when we are finished. All right. Lastly, do remember that conferences is specific to your classes in Schoology. So I know one of the big questions, the biggest question that I've gotten is, how can I do a conference with multiple students across multiple classes? And the answer is you can't. If you Google it, you're going to get this really complicated answer of how you can combine all of your sections into one course. And from that one course, no, it's not true. We are a Schoology Enterprise customer, which means that we're PowerSchool integrated, which means that we don't have that much power because PowerSchool has already dictated what our classes and sections are. So the only students able to tune in for a conference from that class are students in that class. And this is your workaround for that. Conferences is a feature in your classes as well as in your groups. So in the earlier recording of this that I just had to erase, I left and went to Schoology to create a group, but that opened up 2 Schoology windows and ended this one, so I can't do it live. But if you need help, just let me know, and I'll be glad to help you. But if you visit groups across your blue toolbar and then click on My Groups and start a group, you can create, for me, Mick English students. And I can throw all my students in there from all my classes. You just click on members, add students, add them all to your class. So you might have a group with, it won't go more than 100. You can't have more than 100 students tuning into a conference, but good for you if that's a problem. But you can add all of your students to a group and then schedule your conferences through that group. And so they all can log in at the same time. And it's going to work exactly the same as everything we've done. And then the recordings of that will just drop into that group page versus the individual class page. But that is a way for you to bring together multiple groups to do that. Okay, so I think we've covered all the features. I'm checking my notes. So I'm going to stop this recording. And I'm going to end this session. And then I'm going to go back and visit my Schoology page and visit my conferences. And again, I have no scheduled conferences because I'm done for the week. And I'm going to go over here to completed conferences. This will look the same on your student screen. And you will see anything that's been recorded is here available to play back. Any other conferences we've had that were not recorded are still here on my schedule, but at any point I can decide to go in and clean this up some. But I just recorded this schedule, this 10 o'clock conference, and it says it's no recording. So I'm totally freaking out. Just kidding. This is the biggest question I get for conferences. You have got to be patient and allow Schoology the time to download the conference you just finished and then upload it. So the one I did at 9 o'clock, which is the one I redid, you'll see it is now 10:03 p.m. and it is there and it is ready. So the one we just finished together, it just needs time to download and then upload. Schoology will say give it 24 hours. I will tell you from experience, 30 minutes is usually enough. So your student screen will look just like yours. They just don't have the ability to start a conference. So any conferences scheduled for your class will be here under active. Any conferences completed in their class will be available to them here unless you choose to go in and delete it. They'll be able to go and play it back, and you will see it does have a 7-day limit. There is a way to work around that. And I'll show it to you real quick, but I'm working to try to get that 7-day limit lifted, and so we won't have to do this. But this is what you'll do. So this is my conference from my class this morning. You will see, although these students couldn't be seen by their peers during the conference, when you do go back and play it, you will see anyone that had their webcam on. You're going to click on yourself, and it's going to give you the option to save video as, and then you'll save it to your computer as a file. And then you can come back and upload it in your Schoology account, just like you would with any other file. So if we visit the other class that Mrs. Bay has taken over for me, and she has posted her recording of a class there. And so this is what it would look like.
Hello, first block.
So it's just going to show that webcam piece. It's not going to show all those interactive features we use with the whiteboard and the presentation. It will from the conferences app. It just will not from that external recording. So just something to keep in mind. And the point at which there's an update on that, and you're able to save it for longer than 7 days, I will most certainly update you guys for that. But that's just if you choose to export it and then upload it as a file, realize that you are limited to only what was in the webcam and not those extra resources. All right, I do believe that is everything that you need to have a successful conference, to set it up, to conduct it, to record it, to make a really meaningful learning experience for your students. If you find that you need any help whatsoever, please reach out to me. I will meet you in conferences, and we can do this in small groups or one-on-one and get you ready for this important and meaningful tool. Thank you so much for checking out this information, and I hope it will be helpful to you.